All right. Well, hello and welcome. Today, I am very excited to be joined by Keith Anderson. Keith is an ex Meta and DoorDash leader who helps tech professionals land their next level leadership role, make bold moves, and lead with a human first AI strategy. He's hired over 100 people and seen exactly what separates those who move up from those who stay stuck. Through his company, Career Alchemy Lab, Keith helps ambitious professionals position themselves as the obvious choice for advancement, whether within their current company or in a senior role somewhere new. He also works with leaders who recognize that the rise of AI demands a new kind of leadership, one that leans into human strengths like empathy, intuition, and communication rather than competing with machines. Keith is the author of 30-Day Career Reboot, a practical guide to rebuilding confidence and career momentum. So, Keith, welcome to Emily Talks Tech Jobs. Did I miss anything that you want to fill us in on before we jump in?
Emily, what a great introduction. I'm flattered. No, it was good. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool. Okay,
Cool.
so I do want to dig a little bit deeper into, what made you you. So I would love to start out with, where you started in your career. So you actually started your career in education. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about that and then how also you made the move from, education to the world of tech.
Yeah, for sure. So I knew very early on in life that I wanted to be a teacher. I had a really strong drive for that. So, fast forward to undergrad and then graduating, I then moved into teaching English at high school level. I realized quickly that wasn't for me. I had listened
Mhm.
to people and I then moved to teaching English and rhetoric at a university level. And I thought that would be a pivot big enough, but it wasn't. I realized that it wasn't in alignment with who I was. And in addition to that, I felt like I was really training uh, students to kind of think like everyone else, right? Like write this type of essay, like think about it in this form, etc. And I realized that's not really who I wanted to be anymore. I'm a very innovative and creative person, and I wanted to move into a role and industry that really honored that. So I then it took me a bit of time to move into the tech industry where I started as a web developer at Google. And I started as a contractor there, then moved into full time, and then moved into design role there. And then from there, I realized like I was hitting my targets. I was making the metrics. I was working 80 hours a week or what have you, but I wasn't happy. And I knew that this isn't going to get me where I wanted to go. I've known for a while that I wanted to be a leader. And when I had brought this up with my manager and with people on my team, they said, "Oh, now's not the right time. Now's not the right time. Now's not the right time for, many halves or a few years to realize this
Mm.
isn't working." So from there, I finally had an epiphany that I need to tune into myself and what makes me special and just be very authentic with bringing my raw self to conversations. And through that, I noticed that I was started to attract uh, opportunities that ended up moving me into senior leadership to all the way up to VP level. It didn't start just going up like directly to VP level or even manager to director. It started with just being part of conversations and putting myself out there, but just be really true to who I was. So that is where I moved into the leadership realm within the tech industry. As you said, working at Meta, DoorDash in leadership roles, and then a few startups as well in leadership. And then now it was a season of change for me a few years ago where I realized this was such a great experience. I'm ready to help other leaders move into kind of more of a heartfelt, really authentic leadership style that's not all about like driving metrics, like work harder, but more something that is internal leadership that's grounded versus um, how things have been so far
Yeah.
in the leadership industry overall.
Wow. Okay, that is really interesting. I'm especially wondering, how you combine your style with actually hitting those metrics. Because, I mean,
Mhm.
one thing is the approach, but, regardless of the approach that you take, you do need to be hitting those metrics. I mean, whether you're
Yeah,
saying it and like hitting your fist on the desk
right.
or you're leading in a softer, more authentic way. So how do you actually teach leaders or guide leaders on their path to leading, um, and let's say in a different way?
Yeah. Uh, so a few things. First, you need to read the room, read the culture of the company you're at, and you're right. Most companies are very metrics driven, um, OKR driven, KPIs, all of that.
Mm,
And you need to
mm,
be as well too. You need to be in that realm as well too. All
yeah.
people in the corporate world do. That being said, you need to be able to tell the story of the numbers that you're working with, right? And whether you hit the targets, and it matters, of course, for the business, but it's more about how you use story language actually to go from whether you hit the metric or not to sharing like the ups and downs that took you to where you were and how the company, the team, yourself even grew from that experience. And then regardless if you made that metric or not, where are you going to go next? Right. And how is
Mhm.
all that stuff that you built not just hitting like a one-dimensional number, but how is all of that making things better in many different realms? And how are you bringing the people along, right? If you're a
Right.
people leader.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you are really focusing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but focusing on like that human connection and more of like on the soft skill side of leadership. You talked a bit about, leading with empathy and compassion and all of these like very human skills. Um
Mhm.
how do you think that AI these days is changing the way leaders lead?
Well, I think leaders are realizing that uh, their worth and the worth of their team is not just on what they're doing cognitively, right? Or even physically, right? But they need to reposition themselves and their team to focus in areas that AI can't replace. So that is top of mind for leaders and in leadership discussions. Uh, and I mean, from talking with many leaders, whether they're my clients or not, a big consensus I hear is a lot of unknown, right? People
Mm,
are really not sure how to talk about AI in terms of their roles. A lot of people that I hear are AI is a buzzword now, and they're needing to throw it around and say how they're being AI first, but there hasn't been tons of movement really in terms of, um, I guess, workforce reduction, or significant workforce reduction besides customer experience that I'm seeing. Um, so just a lot of people are very unsure about it, right?
right.
And they're doing a lot of initiatives like getting everyone ChatGPT accounts and things like that, but it's not moving the needle. It's not meeting the metrics or anything like
Mm,
that. It's still very early on. Um, so that's essentially where I see things now. But m- AI is moving fast, and in just the next year or two, uh, companies, in order to have their competitive advantage, they have to be really dialing in on what do we really need humans for, and what can we outsource 100% to AI. And I know there's a very big uh, like phrase that I see all the time online that's like AI won't replace you, but those who know how to use AI will replace you. I mean, I would even go a step further in that, right? It's not that you know AI. It's not just about you're good at writing prompts, right? It's about how you are connecting the dots and how you're able to grow things with assistance, right? And when I say grow things, I don't just mean like physically do things, but
mm,
create new innovative ways where we're able to level up the company, the work, what have you, by using AI as kind of like that ground level employee, right? So
Mm,
everyone is up leveling themselves. That's where you won't become replaceable. Not just like knowing how to use AI, right?
right. Okay, so for leaders, helping employees elevate themselves.
Yeah,
Is
and
that the crux
themselves
of
and the
it?
leaders as well too, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and
Okay.
since we're on this topic, another thing just to say about uh, how leadership is changing and will be changing. What I believe is now we see leadership as helping their team or the company like move the boat, right? Like redirect the boat to meet whatever OKRs, make things better or whatever that is, right? But moving like a big boat takes even that metaphor, right? It's like a huge endeavor, a huge thing.
Yeah.
Leadership moving forward needs to be agile. It will be very empowering of the people who are under you, right? Where you're not in control anymore, but you're basically like the leader of a flock of birds, right? Those
Mm,
birds, they follow you, but like notice instantly if you need to move or change, you quickly do that, right? You're not moving a ship. You're able to just do it in like a second, not even a second,
right.
right? That's leaders who can do that. Those are the ones who are going to continue to be irreplaceable in the job market. But the ones that are still in this way of like, okay, we need to take in Q1, we're going to do this one thing and move the ship slowly. Then Q2 will finish. That's not going to be a thing so much anymore. So
Right.
that's how leaders need to adapt, and that's how they need to help their employees to adapt um, to the changing way that businesses work in the age of AI now. So
Awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
wonderful. And
yeah,
that being said, I think that you and I are in a very similar space because I work with, a lot of tech professionals who are looking to land their next role. And you're very much focused on leadership and developing that skill to very specifically level up.
right.
And I love how we complement each other in that way and other ways as well, which we've discussed
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
previously. Um, but so, for our listeners out there, I feel like this is something that's probably generally applicable across levels. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this.
Mhm.
So I've been seeing, for my, let's say entry to senior manager, maybe director level job seekers, there has been a huge impact on how hiring works over the last, let's
Mm,
say, 3 years. And
mhm.
everybody, has heard it in the news, like the ATS and all the bots and the robo interviews and da 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 da. I'm wondering
Mhm.
how AI is actually changing the way that companies evaluate leaders to hire.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, that's a great question. Well, overall, in the leadership hiring space, it is quite a bit different than, I guess, the general hiring space of
Right.
folks that are more individual contributors. And essentially, hiring for leadership roles tends to be through what we call the hidden job market, which essentially is how you are building authentic, sincere relationships with people inside companies to influence hiring decisions and kind of going more of that indirect route. I mean, I call back channeling, right?
Mhm.
That's the approach that overall um, has been how leaders land roles. And more and more, that's becoming the only way to do it. Like trying to just apply for leadership roles online. Uh, Overall, it's just you have very, very slim luck
Yeah.
with that. And so that I don't think works. In the age of AI now, with getting hired as a leader, um, it's really not just about talking about metrics or anything like that. Yes, you do need to show how you and your teams have shown progress and how you advance, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like cutting through the noise in these hiring calls is about how you are helping very directly, how you're helping people that are hiring, right? Everyone in the world, whether they're a leader or not, they are problem aware and they're solution.
Mm,
Seeking. So, how can you first identify very specifically what their problems are? And I don't just mean like general generic ones, but like specific to each person you're talking to. What are their obstacles? And then what are the how are you a consultant to them to uh to solving those problems? Those are the people who
mhm,
get hired, right? So thinking of yourself now more than ever as a consultant during interviews with everyone that you're networking with, that's where you're seen on that same level or higher than the person you're talking with, right? So just the way you navigate it is very different. And to be very honest, the time that it takes to land senior director plus roles tends to be a bit longer because of that, like around 6 months or so or longer, because there's fewer roles and it's a very important role. So companies are having to suss out very clearly who they want, who's that perfect individual, not just the best individual, right? The
right.
perfect, not the best, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. So it sounds like, a lot of those same kind of people skills that'll help you be successful as a leader are the same ones that are gonna get you hired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And that being said, do you feel like now it's more difficult to find those leadership roles in the age of AI than it was previously?
Well, I don't think it's about finding them. I think it's about
Oh.
creating them. And
Oh!
yeah. So especially now, honestly, Emily, now it's the end of 2025 and the job market and economy is not doing so hot, right? I don't have
Mm.
the specific numbers now, but at least
Yeah,
anecdotally, I'm seeing issues there, right? Uh,
yeah.
that being said, once you start breaking into a company and having those discussions with senior leaders in them, that's where you start planting the seed for different ways that you can support them, right? And just as I said
Mm,
before, it's about understanding the problems that they have and then what potential solutions are. Not necessarily when you talk about it how you are the solution quite yet, but starting that, right? And helping them think what are ways that they can solve this problem. And most of the time, it's through having another leader who can help them think of these other um, things that they weren't able to, right? And then
right.
implement them. So it's creating roles, right? Where you
Mhm.
are influencing the senior leaders at these companies. These are the types of folks that I work with. I would say, so senior leaders, right? Uh, Around like senior manager level and below, it's a bit of a different ballgame. But for senior leaders, this is really how it's working more and more and more like. So, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, great. So question for you. Do most of your clients or are most of your clients looking to level up within their organization, or are there also people who are looking to like move up and out?
A lot of people are looking to move up and out,
Mhm.
is what I'm noticing. And with that, there are multiple reasons. One of them is people want to work from home. They want work flexibility and they don't want to work in the office. And I've been seeing that at all levels, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's C suite or entry level, like everyone, right? Um, And in addition to that, the work culture in many companies of the people that I'm talking to have shifted, right? And
Mm.
I've been talking about this new type of leadership style, but being more empathetic, more a heart focused leader. Uh, right now, companies are indexing honestly more on the other way, right? Where it's
Mm.
about meeting deadlines, following the rules, like being in the office 5 days a week, all of that, right?
Mm.
And honestly, that isn't resonating with them, and people are saying like, okay, that's what the company's doing, but it's not I don't have those same values anymore. So I want to find
Mhm.
another company that aligns more with my style, my attitude, and what I value, um, which is something that brings me or brings them joy, right? We live our lives. So like,
Yeah.
you want to find roles that uplift you, that excite you, where you're able to grow your expertise and your impact. Those usually are at other places, is what I'm noticing in the conversation that I'm having.
Right. Okay. Interesting. And so what would you also say for like people who are inside their current role, they're feeling quite stable, the job market's a little uncertain, they're wanting to just kind of like hang on to that stability right now,
Mm,
and aren't necessarily looking to, move up or out. However,
mhm,
a lot of and I don't know about you, but a lot of the clients that I talk to, they're still feeling like it's really hard to stay on top of this AI wave. Because,
mm,
they've got their 9 to 5, and on top of, like, all the things they have to do now, there's, like, pressure to, like, implement these AI tools in order to gain efficiency.
mm.
So that being said, a lot of people feel like they're actually falling behind, even they're just doing the the thing that they were hired to
Yeah.
do. So how do you think that they can reframe that, look at that differently, or, succeed in this environment right now?
Yeah, I think looking at the bigger picture there, like let's say if within your role and company, your role is really shifting to adopting new AI tools, and honestly, for a lot of people, it's not what they had been doing previously, before
Mm,
AI. So they're needing to adapt quite a bit within their current role. And I've heard what you just said a lot, where it's like things are moving quickly in AI in general, but I don't have time to focus or even think about that. I'm like losing steam or I'm falling behind
right,
everyone else, right? A few things to say to that. First, AI is advancing very, very quickly, and y- uh, you know, if you think of it like a train, the train is moving like a Shinkansen, the like Japanese like fast
the bullet
train, right?
train.
Bullet train, right? But most of us we can't jump on that train so quickly, going from like wherever we're at to that fast train. So don't try to run with that. Like you're trying to spend so much energy to get on something that's moving so quickly where we're in November 2025 right now. Probably in January, February, things are going to look very different, right? So your approach shouldn't be just like try to keep up with this fast moving train, but to be connecting the dots, right? With this is where things are now, this is how it can improve whatever area of the business you're in, and then do know about what will be coming and how things will be developing in the future. You don't need to be following all of the fast moving things right now, but be able to predict, be able to see where the industry is moving and connect the dots to how that will impact what you're doing now. And you can advise on that end. And I recommend this, yes, for leaders, but really everyone, right? As the
Right.
job market is going to be and is already changing quite a bit, and then roles within companies are, I believe, are going to look very different, very, very different than what they do now when
Mhm.
within a few years, maybe by 3030. So, um,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say for that. Again, like don't just focus on learning all of the new AI stuff, but look at the future trends and connect the dots with where
Right.
you're currently at and how you can take advantage and advise companies on preparing for that.
Mm.
As, as one last thing on that, a big thing that I'm seeing, especially in the corporate space now, is companies are a bit shell shocked, you could say, of all the changes with AI. If we're talking about it from a technical standpoint, they're still relying on SQL and other really, you could say, stagnant or very structured databases, coding languages, and what have you. AI is really shifting the data models and the way that data is used in the age of AI. So because of that, it's looking to see more if you're on the technical side for this, but where things are now, like what things are not going to work in now, really, with AI, and then in the future, and build strategies and ways to quickly adjust and move past that.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, does that answer your question? I know
It
there's a
sure
lot.
does. Yeah, it
Okay.
does. No, that sounds very good, and it also makes me think, that if you are not necessarily one of Keith's clients, but maybe one of mine,
Yeah.
um, and you're not at that stage right now where you're, like, making huge decisions about, the direction of the company or maybe even the direction of your department, you can be still looking forward and, seeing, like, what tools are out there that can help me move my little area of the company forward and be bringing that to your manager or your director. And then, I mean, I think
Hmm.
that that's like a great way for you to show your flexibility and your willingness and your ability to ride the wave.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Everyone should be doing it, no matter where they
Yeah.
are on like the
Yeah.
ladder, career
Yeah.
ladder, if we call it that.
Right.
One, I guess, strategy I have for people who are maybe have difficulties speaking in leadership conversations or with managers, for example,
Hmm.
is use terminology like, I wonder if, right? What would it look like
Mm,
if, right? That way you are showing this leadership presence, but you're not so forward where you're encroaching on other people's like boundaries and stuff, but you're showing
right.
leadership while also playing into where you are in the company that you're at, you know?
Right. Okay,
So,
I
yeah.
love that little insight there. I think that's an amazing strategy. And along
Yeah.
those lines, um, what are some of the most common obstacles or maybe the most common difficulties people have when leveling up? Like what are, I've talked a lot about like imposter syndrome and like my
Mhm.
my take is that everyone has imposter syndrome. So it's like something like I feel like I've been able to speak to every single job seeker I've ever spoken to about. I wonder if
Yeah.
you've seen anything specific or different because of your audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're all people, and honestly, I would say that, like, no matter if you're CEO or you're a janitorial manager or something, like, y you're we compare. We compare ourselves to others, we compare ourselves to
Yeah.
other businesses, and it's a bias that we have that, we see everyone who's doing better things, we think, but honestly, we don't know the true story of what's happening with anyone else, right? So it's kind of a fallacy. It's something that we're building in our head. Um, I so in terms of moving up the ladder into more leadership roles, what I do see is this kind of manifesting in different ways. Um, I see people who have imposter syndrome more at an IC level. The imposter syndrome is more like, well, can I do this new thing? Can I really succeed doing this? Or because I haven't done exactly like this, I'm a failure, or people are going to notice that I haven't done it before, or something like that. That's
Mm-mm.
very common. What I see in individual contributors sometimes, right?
Okay.
That mentality. And then for leaders, what I see is like, um, how are you? How are you showing up as a leader, right? Like, how are you communicating and showing your worth from a place of simplicity and ease and having like an executive presence. And I mean this at all different levels of leadership. Um,
Mm.
as essentially with being a leader, a strong leader, it there's a lot of nuances, right? It's much less about what you do, it's how you do it. Um, and that's the imposter syndrome that usually happens because, as I said, we compare ourselves to other people and we see this other senior VP, blah, blah, blah. It's like their tone is very stoic and they're this, they're that, but you're not. So, how can you be more like that? And that's kind of what that imposter syndrome looks like from what I've seen.
Right.
So, and
Okay.
I've experienced that too. I'm sure, Emily, you've experienced imposter syndrome. I mean, we're humans, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, drawing from the experience, I've worked with people, I've spoken to people who are, like, really, like, from the perspective of their education with master's degrees, they're, like, literally scientists, and
Mhm.
they say, "I don't think I'll get this job because I've never done that before." And I'll just tell
I
them, like, "You
know.
think you can't do something because you've never done it before, then none of us will be able to do anything because we've never done it
Right,
before." We're all, like,
right.
just here experience this world for the first time right now live. It is happening right now for everyone.
Right, it's so interesting to think about, right? Because if we go back in history, right, like, what about the first person that started fire, right? Like, they're like, "Oh, I'll try those thing I don't know if it'll work." It did, right? And then, like, the person who built the first hut or whatever, right? It's like, well, maybe they thought they couldn't do it, but look at that. Now, people build cities, build all like, that's every everything that happens from someone's belief. Everything
Right.
is about belief. So if you believe in yourself, you can do it, right? It's,
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Doing it and also I feel like failing. Like,
Oh,
having the
yeah.
bravery to fail because, of
Mm,
the person who made fire or the first person who, made a vehicle move forward with internal
right.
combustion, like,
Right.
how many prototypes did they have in the back of their barn, you know?
Right.
So
Right. And like when you learned how to walk, you weren't like, oh shit, I fell down. I'm not a walker. I can't do this. You know?
I think I'll just stay down here.
I'm just gonna crawl for the rest of my life. Like, who does that? I don't know
Right.
anyone who's done that. So,
Right.
we need to go back to these like skills from our childhood. Really, they look more complex the higher up we go, and there's a whole different reality that we build in our heads. At the end of the day, everything in life can be very simple,
Yeah.
if we let it. Um,
Right.
but if we don't get caught up in all the BS of the
Absolutely.
complexity. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Let's just stay
Anyway,
down here.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. So now I'm kind of wanting to shift over to, looking back. I know that you've been independent and you've been, coaching professionals for several years now. How many years?
Since 2022, so about three
Okay.
years. Full
3
time
years.
doing
Okay.
it about 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. So now like going back and like looking back at, all of the things that you've achieved. I mean, you've made quite a couple really big pivots in your life going from, an English teacher to jumping into web development for Google, and then, becoming your own independent leader. That's really amazing. So, you've had a lot of leadership moments and opportunities, and I'm sure also successes over your career. So looking back, on what that looked like over, tech and now your independent work, what is one of the leadership lessons that you've learned that still surprises you today, even though you're so experienced?
Uh, the power of language. And with that, what I mean is I can say something with a certain intent, uh, and people don't necessarily receive that message in the way that it was intended, right? And this is for everyone in the world. It's really it's basic, but it's not simple. Or sorry, it's simple, but it's not easy communication,
Mm,
right? So
right.
that has been something that I've really, really worked to hone throughout my time being a leader. And I would say is one of the strong qualities that I've developed that has helped me move into senior level roles, both in corporate and then as a business owner.
Okay, so along those same lines of being a strong communicator, can you give us an example of like a good way to communicate versus a bad way to communicate? Like something has gone wrong or something needs to be done. Like your message has the potential to take the conversation in a million different ways. So what kind of language do you use specifically in order to drive that ship in the right direction?
Yeah. So, well, I'll explain how I did it before I learned these strategies I'm about to say.
Yeah,
But let's say, like, I guess, for example, I need to give difficult feedback to someone, right? What I would do before is say, like, oh, what I've called at least this shit sandwich, which is
right.
like where you say something like good about the person, like, wow, I noticed you come to work on time at 8 a.m. or something like that, right? At the,
Yeah,
this is the bad example, right?
right.
And then
Okay.
say the critical thing, and then say, but you know, you're you work 8 hours a day or something like that, right? And I was following, and this is what I don't recommend, is just following these like cookie cutter approaches of like, okay, the shit sandwich, I'm going to do it how I was taught because I know this way works. And I know that everyone has done this in my life in K through 12. So I'm going to do it again. Right. Um, it's w- a strong communicator picks up on nuances and can tailor their message and conversation based on the background knowledge and assumptions of the person they're talking to. So, for example, let's say that like with one of your direct reports or something, um, they're presenting work that hasn't been proofread. It's sloppy, right? Um, it's in that angle. So some things I would do is uh, now ask them how they're doing. Ask them about their work, what they think is, what they're proud of with it. What are other projects that they've seen that are similar? What are they like? What do they like about that? And then say, something where you're like, "Oh, okay, I see that you're saying all these great qualities about other people's work. That's great. How do you evaluate that to what you're producing?" Right? Have them say it. It's not like people are smart. They can figure things out, right? And when they're saying the language themselves, right, you're facilitating a mirror for them, right? Where they're like you're asking them, look at what other people are doing, look at what you did. Do you see the same quality of work there? You probably don't, right? Oh, okay. Well, how could we work together where you're able to do that, right? Is this something that you feel like you could do on your own, or do you need guide? Like, ask questions. That's basically what you're doing there, because people don't listen to orders, right?
Mm,
People listen to their own thoughts and their own critical thinking and their story, their reality, right? So to shape someone's reality, you just need to ask them questions that help them see a mirror, right, of themselves,
right.
and have them to describe what that state is that either you want to direct them towards or where they want to, which at the end of the day, everyone for the most part, right, wants to be seen as a very strong contributor. They want to be doing great work. They want to have pride in what they're doing, like all these really positive things. So these are strong assumptions, right, that are usually
Mm,
true. So use that to your advantage when you're communicating, giving feedback with someone, right? Like
right.
if you know that people and this person tends to be very proud of their work, or that's a tendency they have. Use that in how you're positioning your language. So it's very nuanced. I know what I'm saying is very it sounds very difficult to do, but with practice, it's something that you can get better at. I would say starting out, really put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're talking to, and ask questions to them to help you understand more of where they're coming from and what their values are. Then being present in the moment and responding to that, that will help you naturally navigate the conversation where you're able to get your intended message across, but in a difficult conversation in a place that lands well and lands as inspiring, as encouraging, um, and as motivating as possible. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like if you approach it that way, you're really helping like, you're really supporting, gaining buy-in on
Mhm.
be on behalf of the person that you're supporting, because if they see it as like, "Oh, Keith said I did this really bad, like, I need to improve it," it's like you feel negative about it. Whereas if
Right.
you're the one who says, "Oh, this is something that I want to improve because I wanna be a good performer," that's like, more of your intrinsic, your self-motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So yeah. I'm very big about communication. It's something that I've really honed on in my leadership. So I love talking about this stuff and helping people shape their words in a way that not just influences and convinces people, but get people excited and sometimes even more excited about your ideas than you
Right?
are, right? So words are very powerful,
Absolutely.
so yeah,
Okay, wonderful. Well, I've got one more question for you before we go to our hot take. Are you ready for it?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, so, you've been at this for a while. You've achieved some really wonderful things over the course of your career. What is something that you used to believe about career growth that you no longer think is true?
Yeah. So the harder you work, the more visibility you get. The more visibility you get, the more recognition and the more likely you are to get promoted. That's what I thought was true. I spent a few years trying to make that happen that way. It didn't work. And then I realized actually it's a lot simpler than that to grow your career. And it really just comes from a place of sincere curiosity
Mm,
and uh, a sincere care of helping people advance what they're doing, whatever that is. And that's how you grow your reputation and become seen as someone who people want to work with and people want to be in a senior role versus like, oh, they met all these metrics, right? Metrics
right.
and numbers and how many hours you work. They're just one dimensional, right? But it's the
Mm,
story behind them. It's the helpfulness. It's how people feel when they work with you. That's what gets you promoted. That's what gets you ahead in your career or really anything in life, honestly.
right.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, there you have it. Well, are you ready?
I am a little nervous now with
Oh,
this
good.
hot
You
take
know, I
question.
I am looking forward to this because I know you've got some spicy ones in your pocket, Keith Anderson. So, Keith Anderson, what is your hot take?
So, my hot take is for anyone in the tech industry who's, looking to make more impact, uh, stop like forcing yourself to do things that you think other people want you to do. Go and do things that you feel will make impact, but more importantly, you really care about, right? Because once you
Mm,
start really caring about what you're doing, then that shows, right? And then people notice, and then you move ahead, and you're doing it with simplicity because you're enjoying what you're doing. So that's, I guess, the hot take you could say, right? Don't
right.
just do what everyone else says you should do. Pave your own path. And opportunities come once you set them and you follow what your interests, right? So again,
Mhm.
don't listen to what everyone's telling you to do, even your manager. Like really focus on what you know will move the needle and what you're interested in, and things naturally come along. So make it easy for yourself, essentially.
There you have it. Enjoy your work and wonderful things will happen for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope I summed that up okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe it sounds a little idealistic, but I think it's true.
Wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that being said, Keith, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. I know that I appreciate it. I'm sure all of the listeners do as well. And for all of you out there listening who are interested in getting in contact with Keith, we will put a link to his website, his LinkedIn page. And also, Keith, I would love to hear about your group. You just started a group.
Yeah, so I just started a community for leaders who are looking to land their next role in the tech industry, but from a place of being who they are and building real sincere connections with people. Um, Rather than just getting ahead or getting that next VP or SVP role, right? It's more about leading with intent, building connections with others, and uh, moving into more of a heart focused leadership and uh, bringing people along with you through attracting fellow leaders and hiring executives to you rather than you putting yourself out there trying to sell yourself.
Mhm.
So that's a long answer to what the community is about, but there's that, and we have biweekly sessions with leaders in tech companies who are sharing tips, secrets, suggestions for how you can grow and advance in your career and land roles at either their companies that they're working at or in other areas from their own experience. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what the community is. And thanks for sharing it in the show notes.
You are very welcome. All of those ways to contact Keith will be linked below. So thank you once again for being with us, and I can't wait for the next time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it and love our conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Bye everyone.